What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the new meta in Fortnite Zero Build, and that is going to be that EMP grenades are super overpowered. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful or informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, and comment down below what you think of these EMP grenades. So for starters, the EMP grenades were added in this week's update, and they can be found in chests, floor loot, heist bags, and there's also a high voltage augment that will give you 2 of these, and then it will also give you 2 more for each elimination you get for the remainder of that match. And they do 70 shield damage to opponents and disable electronics. So in Zero Build, 2 of these will leave a fully health opponent with only 110 health remaining. So like if someone had, 200 health, their health and their shield, and then their 50 over shield, you hit them with 2 of these, that's 140 shield damage. They only hit for shield. They don't do any white health. But even then, 140 shield pretty much immediately, leaving them with only 110 afterwards is pretty busted, and you can throw these like pretty quick. I was surprised at how fast you could throw them. And when you combine them with shockwaves, you could just shockwave up, throw 2 of these down, remove pretty much all of your opponent's shield, and make them a really easy kill for once you hit the ground. You have to be careful sometimes because you can damage yourself with these, but you're not able to hit your teammates. So if you're playing duos and squads, your teammate's getting in there, you can just shockwave at that, throw a bunch of EMPs down at the fight, and then make that target much easier for your teammate to eliminate. It is very busted, and this is very similar to what the Zero Build meta was for a lot of Chapter 3, when we had shockwaves and boogie bombs in the game where you would just shockwave yourself up, throw the boogie down. Since it's an AoE, area of effect item, when you're up in the air and you're throwing it down, not only do you have a really easy angle to hit the opponent with, but you don't really have to worry about hitting yourself as much. Similar to what we had with the repeater last season, but this is arguably more busted because it only takes 2 of them to remove like the entirety of your opponent's shield. This is very good for when players have high ground on you, like let's say they're on top of a house, on a hill, or maybe on Loot Island. If you zip up and there's already somebody at the top of the house, you shockwave up, throw 2 EMPs, land on them, shotgun them, they're probably going to be dead after that. Like the ability to do 140 shield damage from the sky without really needing much aim skill is pretty insane. But even if you're just like on the ground fighting somebody who's behind cover, you can shockwave at them, throw the EMPs. Even if you're in a building and you don't necessarily want to shockwave, like I'm sure we've all been in those situations where like somebody's just playing a right shouldered peek, whether it's, this will happen a lot if you're in the vault and somebody's camping for and waiting for you to come out. But even just in general, you'll oftentimes get fights where someone's playing a right shouldered peek and they're not really doing anything but waiting for you to go to them. If you know that's happening, you could just throw EMPs onto the ground next to them. 140 shield damage, they're probably going to back up. But even if they don't, you just did so much damage to them that it's going to make it much easier for you to push that and get that easy elimination. So I think that the EMPs are just very, very good. And this is where the high voltage perk is super overpowered because, like I've touched on several times in this video already, it only takes 2 of these to basically remove all of someone's shield, right? And if you get 2 back for every elimination, you can just approach every single fight with the mindset of, I'm just going to shockwave up, throw 2 of these down, land on the person, and then close the kill out from there. A lot of players aren't really going to be able to turn that fight once you just immediately tagged them for 140 shield damage from the sky. And it's not something that's so common at this point. I feel like people aren't as used to playing against it. So you'll catch a lot of people off guard with it, at least as of the time I'm making this video. I think as time goes on, more and more people are going to be aware of this. But because of that perk, you can just go into every fight not really thinking about if I'm going to use this or should I use it. You can just do it every single fight, shockwave up, throw 2 down, finish the kill. You'll get your 2 EMPs back that you used for that kill because of the perk. Shockwaves would maybe need to be a concern. Like you might run out of shockwaves if you're doing this too much. But in Season 4, the shockwave spawn rate, or at least like the prevalence of shockwaves, seems to be much better than it was last season. And if you have the on-the-go bag augment, this really shouldn't be a problem for you at all. And it's just a very low skill requirement playstyle. Like it's not very hard to just shockwave yourself up and then throw 2 of these down. And then also playing against it from the opponent's perspective is very difficult. We'll get more into how to play against it later on in the video. And this similar playstyle kind of works with the sticky launcher as well, but I think EMPs are better and easier to use, whereas like the sticky launcher has a much slower fire rate than what it'll take for you to throw 2 EMPs down. And then there's also a timed detonation on the sticky nade launcher where you shoot it, it goes to the ground, it kind of like beeps for a second and then it blows up, whereas the EMP grenades blow up on impact, and that makes them much more spammable in this regard. It gives the opponent less counterplay, whereas like the EMP with the sticky launcher, you can kind of see that one landed near you and then get away from it. Obviously, if they hit you with it, there's no getting away from that. And I have seen people running double sticky launcher and then just kind of shockwaving up and swapping between them and spamming them out, and that can work for sure. But if EMPs are just as good, potentially better, and they take one item slot instead of two, I would just rather use the EMPs. If something like Soaring Sprints was in the game and you could shockwave Soaring Sprint double launcher spam, then arguably that would be better because the launcher can do HP damage, but you're not going to have that much airtime this season regardless either way. So I would just rather throw the two EMPs and then kill them from there rather than worrying about taking two inventory slots for the sticky launcher and then also making sure I actually hit them rather than just near them. They're both items are insane, but I just think the EMPs are slightly more insane for Zero Build. And I said earlier on in the video that these also disable electronics in addition to breaking shield. And where this is really helpful is anybody using the business turrets or cars, because one EMP will disable the business turret for 25 seconds, I believe. So if you are someone who's had a hard time dealing with the business turret, this shockwave EMP playstyle should help you. And a lot of times players will stand relatively close to their business turret, so you might, not only disable the turret, but hit them for 70 shield damage. So you're like killing two birds with one stone there. With the car, it seems like it takes two EMPs to completely disable the car. I've had weird experiences playing against cars with this, and I obviously haven't had the most experience with it because they've only been out for a few days. But it seems like one is not enough to completely disable the car, and it takes two EMPs. And again, you kind of killed two birds with one stone here because not only are you disabling their car, but you will do shield damage to the player inside when you EMP their car. So just throw two, you'll disable the car and take out all their shield. This person is going to be in a very strange situation because they thought they were driving away or repositioning in some regard, and then their car is locked and they just took 140 shield damage immediately. It's just very broken, and it's just, yeah, I do not know why they added this to the game. I think the game was better without this than with it. So far, since they added EMPs, my loadout has just been, as far as guns go, just a shotgun and the twin mag AR. I think any shotgun works well here. I've been using Sharptooth shotgun and twin mag AR a lot. And then obviously the Infiltrator and the Maven are the more spammy shotguns, so those are going to work fine as well. Sharptooth twin mag AR isn't going to be the best kind of close range combo. Like, you will probably lose out to the exotic Maven, or you would lose out to Sharptooth SMG if you just get in a straight up fight, but you're probably not going to be getting in a lot of straight up fights if you're playing this kind of strategy to its highest potential, because all of their shield is going to go away with the EMPs ideally. So it's not like you're going to have these long drawn out fights, so the fact that you're kind of lacking on some firepower without an SMG, I think is fine. And people have been running two-gun loadouts all season to make room for bunkers. So I think Sharptooth twin mag AR works fine. If you want to use the Maven, that's fine too. If you want to use the Infiltrator pump, that's fine too. Exotic Maven is obviously the most broken, and it slots in just fine with this type of playstyle as well. And then for the other items, Slurp Juice, obviously, it's been the best healing item in the game for a long time. And then Shockwaves and EMPs. So just a quick rundown. I've been using shotgun, twin mag AR, Slurp Juice, Shockwave Grenades, and then EMPs. And you have not only great weapons, but the ability to remove people's shield from the sky. If you're playing against this, I think the easiest way to counter it, or the most effective way to counter it, is just going to be Shockwave yourself. Very similar to what we had last season with the Explosive Repeater, or in Chapter 3, when you think someone's trying to Shockwave Boogie Bomb you, you would just Shockwave yourself up. Like, the spammable nature of these area of effect items is so good when you're in the sky, because you just have to hit near the person in the ground. Whereas, like, if the person also shockwaves themselves and then they're no longer on the ground, it's much harder for the person with EMPs to hit you. So if you think someone's going for one of these plays, you just kind of want to try to shockwave yourself. And if you're the person that shockwaves second, that other player should hit the ground before you, obviously. So you can potentially get some EMPs on them after they land. Again, very similar kind of counter to what the Explosive Repeater was last season. Although the Explosive Repeater was kind of, you could shoot people who were in the sky with it. I feel like the EMPs would be awkward to throw at somebody who were in the sky. So that is my advice. If you think someone's going for this, just try to shockwave yourself and then land they'll land first, EMP them, and then you kind of like turn it on them, obviously. And if you have no shockwaves, you maybe can just like try to sprint away or sprint slide away. The area of effect on these EMPs isn't ridiculous. Like, it is somewhat forgiving. You don't need to literally hit the person with it. You can just hit near them. But if you're sprinting and trying to get away, you may potentially kind of get out of their area of effect. And the same is true of the sticky nade launcher. It doesn't have the most ridiculous blast radius. I think that is one way in which this is kind of like worse than how the repeater was. I feel like the repeater had more blast radius. And then also, unless someone's carrying multiple inventory slots of these, they only have 6 as a max, you know? So if they throw 2 on their initial attack and you dodge it, like they have 4 more max. I feel like players are more likely to run out of these than they were like the explosive repeater, because someone can hold like 50 sniper ammo. So unfortunately, it doesn't have the most counters, and the best counter is just to do it yourself, similar to what we had with the repeater. One final thing I want to touch on is sometimes you'll get weird damage numbers on these when the overshield is broken. So I've probably had clips in this video where it looks like I hit them for 20, and that's because it doesn't show the overshield damage. So if you have someone that's full HP, the first one breaks the overshield and then hits for 20 shield damage. So I don't know why it doesn't show overshield damage, but that's why. It broke their overshield and then 20 damage to their real shield, and then the second one does another 70. If they only had 10 overshield, it would show that it hit for 60. Just, I don't know why, but for some reason the item doesn't show overshield damage. So if you saw like weird damage numbers when watching the gameplay in the video, or when using it, you're like, why did it just hit for 20? It didn't hit for 20, it just for some reason subtracts the overshield from what it displays to you. No idea why that is the case. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting. Unfortunately, I feel like the more people use this, the worse the game is going to be, but hopefully Epic nerf it and kind of reduce some of the shield damage on this item and make it less of just, you know, a shockwave spam meta. Again, I really liked the start of this season, and it's still been good. I think the season is really solid, but I feel like the more people are using this in Zero Build, the less fun the game is going to be. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.